Hey, welcome to Loose Change. Still available on vinyl. 12-inch club mix now too, right, Greg? Hi, I'm Jim Evans. Thanks for joining us, and you'll be glad you did. As always, we have a very special show for you with a very special guest. Do you want to hang around for that? We'll get to that in just a couple of moments, so stand by. But first, as we do off the top, what's been going on? Always some silly, sometimes crazy things happening in our area, and most recently, the Youngstown police arrested two guys who were living together after they got in a big fight that included gunfire. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but the dispute was over one guy drank the other guy's buttermilk. My guess is that incident was immediately preceded by the altercation over the 12-pack. So there's a good chance that was happening. Hey, is everybody, Greg, you've adjusted the time change? I'm having a little bit of trouble. I did what you're supposed to do, Saturday night before, but I completely forgot to set the TikTok back and out. So, with that. Pro football doing really good in Cleveland. Yeah, it is. Well, St. Edward's, St. Ignatius doing great in the playoffs so far. So they got that working. As of the taping of this show, the Browns and Steelers both had a bye. And if they don't get their collective acts together, they're going to both need an alibi. The Browns probably need that already for what they've done. Baseball behind us now, but how about the Guardians? That terrific season they had. They won the division, got into the playoffs. Nobody saw that coming. And I was watching Game 5 in New York against the Yankees when it closed out. But the Yankees fans en masse were chanting, "Who's your daddy?" And that was directed at the Guardians' Josh Naylor. Heck, even their analytics department was in on it. But they were chanting, "Who's your dada?" That was fun. Here we are, the start of the holiday shopping season. And that means here we are at the start of the holiday shoplifting season. We have fun with it. It's always Walmart. That's ground zero. It is what it is. The problem is so big for them, though. The shoplifters tailgate before they go in the store. That's fun to handle. And we also have to keep out now at this time of year for the deer out there. Greg, this is true. I read this story. In New York City, they have a overpopulation problem with the deer, specifically in Central Park. And their plan to maybe manage this is what it said, is they're going to try and give the deer vasectomies. That's what I read. And it's going to cost millions of dollars. And I thought, come on. It'd be so much easier, so much more cost-effective to just go with, "Not tonight, dear." Hey, stick around. DJ Yokley from YSN, your sports network, joins us next here on Loose Change. Who's your dada?
Signature here. Oh, and one last thing.
What's with the chainsaw?
Oh, well, service may be slowed due to network interference.
Network interference?
Yeah, well, maybe if you cut down some of these trees, you can finally get a decent cell signal, which is how you get internet now. Good luck.
Read the fine print. Only Armstrong delivers fast and reliable internet right into your home on a network built specifically for the internet. Zoom from Armstrong.
Welcome back to Loose Change. I'm Jim Evans. I have the great pleasure to be joined by the founder and president of YSN, your sports network. He's DJ Yokley. And DJ, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. What we like to have our victims or our guests do off the top, for those who don't know you, give us a little background information, where you're from, where you went to school, and then how this all came about.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an East Palestine boy, DJ Yokley, born and bred in Bulldog Country.
All right.
Went to Westminster College, got my degree in broadcasting. From there, I worked at a local company here in the media to cut my teeth. And from there, I always wanted to be a sports reporter. You know, they gave me a shot, and unfortunately, it didn't work out the first time around. Being that I'm a local boy with the small schools, I found like a missing link, Jim, that I'm sure you know. The small schools weren't getting covered as much as the big ones.
Yeah.
So I set out to kind of change that. We started out with 4 schools with YSN. We started out with, let's see if I can remember, Crestview, Salem, South Range, and Leetonia. Leetonia being the first.
Those are the schools you featured.
Yes, sir. Yeah, with YSN, we started out just as an audio company.
Okay.
And we said, we'd love to do featured interviews like this, and obviously, just feature your kids, your coaches, your community. And from there, 6 years later, we have 76 schools, just YSU baseball, a ton. I mean, I think overall we have 92 different teams that we cover. So it's taken off, and the streaming aspect has really helped us, and now we're video, audio, and everything. So it's fun.
Has it met your expectations, exceeded them, otherwise?
Yeah, I think like the end of the first year, we threw away our 10-year plan. And then when we hit COVID and everything happened, we threw away like our next 10-year plan. I remember the day, it was 6 days before the football season started, and we were still unsure about if football was going to happen. And Mike DeWine, remember Wine with DeWine? Well, we watched that regularly, and he said the football season's going to happen, and we had, I think, 8 Amazon trucks, UPS trucks backed up, and all the video equipment and all that stuff. And it was a heavy bill, it was a heavy burden, but we decided to go all in at that point. And they were letting us do video for the first time in football. So we started a pay-per-view, which was a huge risk for us. We didn't know, we'd never done it before. And you just never know.
Right.
Yeah, we gave it a shot, and we were able to give a lot of money to schools, a lot of money to the OHSAA. But it was successful. We really cut our teeth, I think, at the right time, with a lot of great people involved. Our general manager, Steve Leslie, who networked with everybody. And WFMJ, the same thing. They've been great to us, Jack Gerdick and the whole crew, and working with Dana, and it's just been fun. And Greg and Armstrong, of course. Without them, I don't know where we'd be. But honestly, it's been a ride. I didn't start this to be a businessman. Kind of something I learned something new every day. I just knew that there was something missing in our community, and people seem to like it. So,
Was there ever a point where you stopped for a moment and said, "Wow, what did I get myself into?"
I think every morning when I wake up, I'm like, okay, what's new today? But like it's fun. I've always wanted to be in sports. It's a passion I've had. The competition. But more than anything, I firmly believe that there's 2 things that happen here in Youngstown. It's sports and weather. That's 2 things that people care about more than anything.
That's a consistent.
Yeah, and 2 minutes at the 6 o'clock news, it wasn't doing it for me. And we used to have something that was here, and it was I thought very successful. I felt like I was a part of it, and they just went away. And with all these corporations buying out these companies. They don't care about local, and I do. I care about these kids, whether they're going to be professional athletes or not. I don't care. I care about them in the community, and the interviews that we have help them with their job interviews someday and things of that nature. So people seem to like it. We've done over 6,000 interviews with kids in our 6 years, so it's been fun.
Absolutely. You started with the 4 schools, you said, and what was the response from following schools that you approached, and what was your pitch to them? Hey, we have these people on board already. Here's what we're going to do. How did that?
Yeah, it was kind of weird, Jim, because at the beginning it was just like, who are these guys and what are they doing? We like what they do, and from your people think that when a broadcaster goes in, naturally there's 8 million people tuning in and they're not going to the game. When in reality, with what we were doing, we called them fireflies because they were watching on their phones in the stands, getting almost like an added game experience, and kind of like the old days where they had their headphones on, like at YSU. So from our standpoint, these people just wanted to know who we were, what we were about. They were nervous, naturally, because we were new, and change is never easy, always scary. But what we found was when they listened to our games, our announcers had one thing more than anything, it was passion. We felt like we were part of these teams, and then people wanted it. Parents wanted it, kids wanted it, and then you start the awards like the Big Dog of the Valley by Barrett Brothers. You start all this stuff, and kids, they want to be part of that. They want their name in lights, and it just grew and grew and grew. Then we got into the college with YSU baseball, and the networking around here is phenomenal. And I think really when people realize what your heart is at the end of the day, they accept it. And they say, okay, this guy's in it for the right reasons. And, being the face of the business isn't always pretty, naturally, but it's one of those things that, I feel people respect what we do and why we do it. So, yeah, it's been fun.
Obviously, the response from potential advertisers has been pretty strong.
Yeah, it's been a ride, right? So I have background in advertising from a national level. I worked at a company called Military Spouse Magazine before I started this, and it was a national level. I had Starbucks as a client, La Quinta, things, companies like that, Fortune 500. So when you're talking to a Fortune 500 client, it's a little bit different than you're talking to a mom and pop shop. Our first ever advertiser was NDC Heating and Cooling. And I remember asking them for a check for $100, thinking, if they don't give me this check, I don't know what I'm going to do. And naturally, they handed over a check for $250 and said, oh, wow. Go nuts. And at that point, it should have been $1 million check for us because it was unbelievable. It felt like $1 million. So advertising has been phenomenal for us. The people that have supported, they support because they're kids. They see what we're doing. Yeah. But naturally, we broke a record this year. Record going into 2022 was 3.7 million views on our website. Wow. And right now we're sitting here, as this is being taped, we are at 6.7 million, and we haven't even reached the end of football season. So we've almost doubled what we did last year. So we're turning the corner again. I don't know how or why, but we're doing it.
Hey, just keep moving forward, man. Gee whiz, all the schools that you're out covering, how many people are involved in the whole process now?
Yeah, so we have about 70 1099s, people that are part-timers that either do football, basketball, tennis, hockey, any sport possible, or some guys just choose they want to do interviews because they feel comfortable with those interviews. Yeah. Our GM, again, Steve Leslie, has been phenomenal for us, just constantly. Every time you see him or hear him, he's always talking about YSN and what YSN means to him. The people make up the business. It's people and processes. And our process, I think, is pretty simple. It's go to a game, call a game. But the people are what make up what we do. And, it's fun to get the authenticity from somebody who graduated from a school that still gets excited 10 years later about the people that are walking those halls. And you can tell when it's a YSN broadcast. There's a little bit of homerism that goes on. We get in trouble for it sometimes, but it's authentic. And sometimes, especially when you're around a team as much as we are, it's hard to hide.
How do you mentioned avoiding or not avoiding, but sometimes you get labeled as a homer. But how do you have when you have a local matchup? How do you balance that out and walk that fine line?
You just hope there's a lot of scoring, so you just be excited the entire time. Mm-hmm. So if there's like a 14-10 game, it's going to be tough. But we do certain things like we'll have the announcer from one team and the announcer from the other come in.
I got you.
Like for Eccleston and Canfield, we'll have the Canfield announcer announce play-by-play on offense and then flip it over. Okay. Almost two play-by-plays. Okay. Not ideal, but they're comfortable with it, and it's a little bit less prep for them, and people get what they're used to. So it's sometimes it gets really funny in the booth because you got guys almost bickering back and forth about who's doing better. Which is funny for us, but it goes back to the people. Everybody accepts it because when you're at week 13, 14, 15, 16, I think we just root for everybody. All of our teams, yeah. And that's the fun thing. Yeah. It's fun because we're seeing matchups this year we've never seen before ever. But at this point, we're able to be there and kind of capture it. So, in 30 years, if they meet again, we'll have it.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned the people, working for you doing this, so I have to give a shout out to my good friend Joe Eusebio, who does Columbiana stuff for you. He and I started in broadcasting together down in Salem, so I know he does a great job for you.
Yeah, he's phenomenal for us. One of the best voices that we have on the network. We were actually approached to do an Audible book, and the first thought in my head was Joe. Joe's going to do this, one of those situations, but. It's funny, Jim, because we have people from all different backgrounds, all cool. different kind of coming in, and Mark Franken, another Columbiana guy, came to me, and he's now the head baseball coach at Heartland Christian, and he said, "I always wanted to do this. It was a bucket list thing for him, and he did it, and he was awesome, still is awesome." Mm-hmm. So for us, it's great. We love people from all different backgrounds, opportunities coming in, and kind of checking that off for them. And if they've got a kid playing in the game, it's doubly as fun because you
Right.
get in for free.
Yeah, I was thinking about how you recruit people to do this, but it kind of works for itself.
Yeah.
I mean, people want to do this, as you mentioned, and it's a draw for them.
Yeah, and there are people that give us kind of stuff, I'll say, on Twitter and social media, and I can do that better, and then we just send them the application, right? And we say, hey,
Okay.
if you can do it better, we're always looking, and we're always hiring. So it's fun for us. I think it's a different voice for the Valley. With all due respect to the hard-nosed and the people that make up this Valley, we have an attitude. And we don't necessarily, especially in the news media, always get to show that attitude. So I wanted YSN to have a different voice, different attitude for sports in this area. So I think we've achieved it.
For sure. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with DJ here. Stick around on Loose Change.
Supercharge your internet. Only Zoom Extreme from Armstrong combines unlimited data with whole home Wi-Fi. Delivered to you at the fastest speeds possible on our fiber optic network. Zoom Extreme from Armstrong. The future is faster. The future is now.
Welcome back to Loose Change. I'm Jim Evans again with DJ Yokley from YSN. That's a cool. I like that logo.
Thank you very much.
Neat. It's so encompassing with everything you're doing with the numbers and the volume. How do you coordinate this on game night? Run us through the process and how this all comes together.
Yeah,
it's final product.
It's funny because scheduling is a juggling act. Especially in baseball and softball season where you don't know because of the rain, the weather.
Yeah.
Basketball is pretty locked in. From that standpoint. But just to take you through basketball season, our scheduler Quinn Pushkart just finished every single game that we're going to do up until the tournament, and he scheduled about, I think he said 1,200 games that potentially we could do. Now, we're probably not going to get to every one of those games, but we're going to try. The people commit to a certain school, and what they'll do is they'll say, hey, I'm going to go East Palestine boys, East Palestine girls, and I'm covered 5 nights a week. You know what I mean? So when they're on the road for basketball, they're open. So they can either take that week off or they can choose to fill in the gaps. And a lot of these guys fill in the gaps because basketball's quick.
Right. You mentioned to me before the break, over 2,000 last year, and the goal is to get to 5.
Yeah, the goal's 5,000 this year. So we have some partnerships in place that are gonna help us get there, we think. But again, I try to have lofty goals because I don't want a goal that we can necessarily hit. I want stretch goals that it's gonna take a little extra, from everybody, myself included, to get. So yeah, I don't see a whole lot of the family during football or basketball season. But baseball season in the summer, it's one of those things where a lot of the guys step up. It's a little bit more leisurely. It's a little slower, as we know. But we still do 500 games at Scene Park every year during baseball season. We do all the Scrappers games as well. We did all the YSU games last year, home and away. So it was, I'm telling you what, Jim, it's been an undertaking, but it's been so fruitful. Because it's hard to even go to the grocery store and have people not realize what we've done for their community in an era that doesn't do it anymore. It's been tough. I mean, the radio has been challenging. It was going downhill whenever we started, and it was one of the things that we were like, okay, we've got to support this. Then the Vindicator went away, and it was even tougher. So we had to step up and kind of puff our chests out and say, we have to be that now. So we went audio broadcasts and maybe an interview a week to now we got a web page that we got to maintain. And we get a lot of hits on that web page, and people use it like they used to use the paper, because we are the home for everything sports. So getting the stats and everything, it's been crazy. It's been fun, but it's like a child. It grows every day, and you just don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, and we mentioned people you have involved. I mentioned Joe, but I was doing the Fitch St. V game last Friday and saw Mike Eccleston. I haven't seen Mike in quite a while. Great guy. It was good to see him.
Yeah, he has been so instrumental for us in a world where we have a young face. I like to think a little bit, 37 years old. Mike has been a supporter of me for so long. When I was trying to break into the business and work for 21, he was in my corner. Whenever I was trying to work for 27, he was in my corner. Anytime that I needed something to try to get into sports, that's a guy that believed in me. So Mike left 21 because he had a great offer, And it wasn't 2 months after he left, and I said, Mike, would you ever get back into sports? And, I don't know if I can afford you. And he stopped me right there, dead in my tracks. And we kind of noodled and came up with what we call the audible call, which is the only high school red zone channel in the entire country. So if you're familiar with the NFL red zone channel,
Yep.
we do it for high school. With
Cool.
all the games that we have, we cut away from game to game to game. Mike is the liaison, the host.
Is that game night?
It's on Fridays. Yep, Fridays, and our games are free anyway. So if you're just looking to throw the switch away, throw the remote away, and let us do the work, the option's there for you. And there's a lot of people that watch that, love it. And with Mike at the helm, you always know that it's going to be professional. So Mike's been a great asset for us.
Absolutely. If ex family at home, excuse me, wants to pick up a game, say this weekend, what do they have to do if they're not familiar with the process to get hooked up?
Yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible. We try to make it, we call it grandpa proof, where you go to ysnlive.com/live, and we give an entire listing of every game that we have. You just click the link and it takes you right where you want to go.
Pretty simple.
We try, not
Just
always.
like that. Well, you've expanded so much, in this area, this region now. Do you have, ambitions to reach out statewide beyond that? You mentioned, of course, the red zone thing kind of you do, but is that in the plan, or we'll see how it plays out?
Yeah, it's always been in the plan. Everybody thinks YSN stands for the Youngstown Sports Network, and I just let them talk. You know what I mean? Because if they're saying YSN, I guess there could be bad things they say, but usually it's I don't care what they call us as long as they call us home for sports. I want regular growth. I want organic growth. We're not trying to push anything or really grow faster than we should. Schools want us. It was tough the first couple of years calling schools and saying, hey, would you want something like this? Right. And now schools are calling us. Yeah. A couple perennial state championship powers calling us now. And we have to make sure that we still hit a certain level. There's an expectation that they have for us. We want to make sure that it's always positive experience. We're never talking poorly about kids or coaches. In a world full of bad news, we want to be the good news. So you're never going to find a situation where we're talking about discipline or fights break out during a game, we go off. You know what I mean? We're not here to give you bad news or talk poorly about your kid ever, because these are 14-year-old kids in some cases that you're talking about. So expansion is I think going to happen, but we're going to let it happen naturally as opposed to pushing the envelope.
Do you feel, as you analyze your product and what you do, occasionally you come to a point, hey, we can maybe do this better or do that better, or is that part of the process?
Yeah,
sure.
Always. So we try to be our own worst critic. Yeah. I try to, I study business all the time now, and one of the best quotes I had was, you got to put yourself out of business every day. Because if you're doing it, somebody else is probably thinking about it. So we try to protect ourselves from that scenario and say, listen, if there's somebody that can put us out of business, how are they going to do it? Where are our weak spots? Almost like a prize fighter, right? If you're not good at a left hook, you got to work on your hook a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, we've got people in great places, and we take a lot of criticism. Some of it's great, some of it's bad, but we try to take it all in stride and say, okay, well, what do they mean by this? Why did this upset them, or why do they want us to do this at the end of the day? And we say, how do we do it? We're working on the camera situation right now to make the cameras a little bit more powerful, to kind of give a better experience. We're probably going to be next year unveiling a little bit more of the game of the night style, where we'll have 2 cameras, instant replay in certain locations. Yeah. We're shooting for 4 different camera setups. We know that there's a draw for that here, for that 1 a week. So we think we can quadruple that and give 8 different teams an opportunity each week to have that and kind of move all over the map, where we're far south is Richmond Edison now, and we go up to Ashtabula County, the other side. So spreading them out and then kind of bringing them together and getting everybody that big game feel is kind of where we're going.
Great. It is, we know football, we're right in the thick of it here. Is football the meat and potatoes for you, or I know you're doing everything, but
financially, and then it's basketball is really close behind.
That's coming on, huh?
Yeah, baseball from a frequency standpoint is really big for us. I mean, we got 6 months of baseball. So, you're talking 500 games at Scene Park, another 500, 600 games for high school season. So, you're talking over 1,000 games just for baseball, which is great because I'm a baseball guy. So, it's kind of one of the reasons I started this because baseball got no traction. It was state championships were few and far between.
And we have good baseball here locally.
Great baseball here now, and we lucked out. The first year that we were here, South Range won their state championship in 2018.
Yeah.
So we've been riding that roller coaster for a little bit. But football is the dog that everybody walks, and then after football season, it's kind of YSN and everybody else, which I'm okay with because we're running our own race, and from our standpoint, we just keep pushing ourselves and try to make everybody better, including the kids. So.
We have 7 local teams remaining in
8,
football.
yep.
Eight
with Jefferson.
Yeah, if you include Jefferson, we always look at it a little different without them. But yeah, you're right. You'll be doing South Range and Mooney.
Yeah, I'll be doing that game. We have 5 different games this weekend, and you can get if the people want it. They can get it for $9.99 on YSN, and we call it the Power Play Playoff Pass.
Okay.
Mouthful, but for $9.99 they can get all those games and watch them all until Sunday. So if you're playing on Friday, you just buy that on Friday. You can still watch the games all through Sunday. So,
are you a fan? I gotta think you are. Are you a fan of the 16-team?
Believe it or not, I'm
format?
not.
You're not?
I'm
Oh,
not.
wow. Okay.
I'm
You
not.
got me on
Yeah,
that one.
I don't like it. I think the playoffs, especially in football, need to be cherished. I think we're going to go back in the next decade to what we had in 2020, which is everybody, because that's the maximum. That's what OHSA wants, and they've made it no qualms about it. So I think from our standpoint, we're ready for it, but we're never going to go backwards, Jim. We're never going to go back to the 8 teams and 4 teams.
No.
But if we have to deal with 16, then we'll deal with 16. But it's funny to me, and you probably had the same situation where there's coaches that were against the 16.
Oh yeah.
But when they were the 17th team, they were all for it, and now the playoffs need to expand. So it's always kind of which side of the fence you're on.
Double-sided coin there. But if you had a message to viewers about, hey, check us out, what would be your advertisement for those who don't already know?
Yeah, so we live by 3 pillars. We're live, we're loyal, and we're local. Big on loyalty. We're loyal to our kids, the schools that we have to a fault. Our advertisers, and our fans. We listen to our fans. We're in a world where people are on social media constantly. We are too. We live there. So we take our criticisms and critiques very personally, and we work on them. And we feel like we're part of the family when we're in your living room, on your device, wherever. So we love being the interaction. Our shows, daily. From 1 to 4 on YSN Live, you can catch us, and we love just being part of that realm of the world that we're now living in. Less callers and more typers. So.
There you go, yeah, for sure. Well, hey, unfortunately we're out of time, but thank you so much for taking the time to come in and join us. And best of luck the rest of the season here and through the whole sports year, and hopefully we'll have a chance to hook up again and catch them on Armstrong.
Absolutely. All of them, right here on
right.
Armstrong. Let Greg lead the way. Jimmy, it's
All
been
right.
a dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. DJ Yokley. We'll be right back to wrap it up here on Loose Change.
Supercharge your internet. Only Zoom Extreme from Armstrong combines unlimited data with whole home Wi-Fi. Delivered to you at the fastest speeds possible on our fiber optic network. Zoom Extreme from Armstrong. The future is faster. The future is now.
Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thanks so much again to DJ Yokley. Best of luck to everyone at YSN. Of course, all of our local teams still competing in high school football and all the sports coming ahead. A lot to see here on Armstrong. Thanks as always to Greg Roten and all of you. And you can check us out on YouTube. Just go to Armstrong Loose Change. I'm Jim Evans. We'll catch you next time right here on Loose Change.